Okay, I have it in my directory here, but it's not included in the actual repo. Now there's a couple shortcuts that I want to show you as well. So if you want to add and commit at the same time in one command, you can do that with the A flag, -A. So let's say I add another task here. And when I'm adding these tasks, this is just an example. Normally you would be adding a whole new feature. There'd be multiple files changed, but I just want to make some kind of change. So let's say that I want to add and commit in one command. So I can do git commit. Remember, I haven't added the index.html to my local repository yet. I haven't added it to the staging area, but I can do -A and then also M for the message here. And then I'm going to say added task 6. Okay, so if I run that now, say git status, and it doesn't show anything in the staging area, your branch is ahead by one commit. So I can now just run git push. Okay, and now if we go back to our repository, we should see the new commit. You can see added task 6. All right, so that's how you can do it in one command. Another thing you could do, and I'll just again add another task just to make a change. Another thing you could do is say git add, and let's say index.html, and then we can do $ampersand, so and git commit -M, and let's say added task 7. So here I'm doing the git add and the git commit in one command as well. And then we'll do git push, check it out, and we should see added task 7. Okay, and it's only going to be on the files that were changed, and in this case only the index.html was changed. Now while we're on the GitHub repo here, the interface, just want to go over a couple things and just to get you a little bit more familiar. So obviously it shows our files, it shows the commits, and it shows when they were made. Here is the branch, main branch. If I had other branches, then they would show here as well. Over here it says 6 commits, so that's what I've made so far, and if I click on that, it'll show me all the commits that are made, and it breaks it up by day. And if I want to see the state of the code in one of these commits, I can do that. So if I click on add new task, it shows me what was actually changed at that point, and what was changed was I added a new task. I added task 4. All right, so you can always go back and check what was actually added or removed or whatever was changed. Okay, and let's see, we have up here a bunch of tabs. Of course, the code tab, that's what we're on. The issues tab, so people can submit issues. So if they run into a bug or something, they can do that, and they can add labels to them. Pull requests, so if someone wants to collaborate and they fix a bug or they add a feature, they can then make a pull request for you to look at and approve. So all your pull requests will show up here. Actions, so here you can set up continuous deployment and continuous integration pipelines. That's beyond the scope of this tutorial. And then projects, so here you can manage your project using GitHub's built-in project management tools. Wiki, so if you want to create a wiki. Security has to do with your security policies. Insights, so you can see, the traffic and analytics. Settings, so from here you can do things like change the visibility, so if you want to change it from public to private, if you want to disable issues, if you want to delete the repository, archive it, transfer it, so all that stuff is done in the settings tab. And also add collaborators, that's another important one. So if you want someone else to be able to work on this repository, you would just add their GitHub email here, and that would send an invite to them. You can do more advanced stuff like webhooks. There's a lot you can do here. I'm just scratching the surface just to give you an introduction. But yeah, there's a lot you can do. It shows here the languages, so whatever technologies are actually used in the repo. But yeah, so that's kind of the basics. Now let's talk about getting code from GitHub. Okay, and we've already looked at pull, which is one of the ways. Now, You can download an entire zip of the repository if you go to this code button here and you just say download zip, but you're only going to do that if you just want the code and you don't want anything else to do with the repository. You don't want to add to it. You don't want to, do anything with it. It's still, I would say, clone it anyways. Because it's literally just a command and you have the whole thing on your machine rather than extracting a zip file and so on. And that's the next one, which is git clone. You you get a copy of the full repo onto your machine, right? So to do that, you would run git clone, and you can clone with the SSH link here or using HTTPS. Now to use SSH, you're going to have to generate some SSH keys and add them to GitHub. I'm going to show you how to do that in a minute. Another thing you could do is git fetch, which is it's when you want to get the latest changes from the remote repository, but you don't want to merge them. So you can use git fetch. And then forking is copying a repository from GitHub onto GitHub within your own account. Right, so if someone else, you'll see I can't fork my own repository, but if I was on, if someone else was on this and they wanted their own copy of this on their GitHub account, like let's say my username was hello, it would be hello/task tracker. Okay, and I could fork it by just clicking this button, and I'd have that automatically in my account. Then I could clone that onto my machine, and I could work on that, which would be my own repository. All right, so those are the main ways that you would get files from GitHub. Now I want to go over cloning. So like I said, before you can clone using this SSH link right here, you need to generate some keys and put them on GitHub. So the way you would do that, let's just jump back into VS Code here. I'm just going to close that up. So the way you would do that, SSH-keygen, that's what we use to generate a new SSH key pair. And then we'll do -t, so the type would be RSA, and then the bits, so -b would be 4096. So if I run that, it's going to ask me the location and the name of the key. And the default would be in my home directory and then in a .ssh folder, which is a hidden folder, and it would call it ID RSA. And if you're fine with that, you can just hit enter. But if you want to change it, then you would put the location. So for me, you'll say users, Brad Traversy. Obviously yours would be a different location, at least I hope so. And then .ssh /, and I'll usually call it like ID _ GitHub. We'll say GitHub 2. Okay, and you can add a passphrase if you want. I'm just going to hit enter for no passphrase. And now you can see that it's created this. So two things, ID GitHub 2, which is your private key, and ID GitHub2.pub, which is your public key. All right, now what you would do is put the public key on GitHub. So the way that we can read that public key to copy it to put it on GitHub is with the cat command. So we'll say cat and then the tilde, which is just an alias for your home directory, /.ssh, and then /ID _ GitHub 2, and then we want the public key, so .pub. And there it is. So what you would do is copy this. So from here, the SSH RSA to the end. So you'd copy that, and then you'd go to GitHub, go to your, not your repository settings, but your actual settings, which are right here. And then go to SSH and GPG keys, and then new SSH key. And then you just give this some kind of description, like you could say, I don't know, basement, this isn't Windows, basement Mac, something like that, that just describes your computer, your machine, add SSH key, and then that would get added to your account. All right, and you can test to see if that works by doing SSH-T and then git at github.com, and I get this success message. Okay, now if you get something that says like public key denied or something like that, usually what will fix that is to get your agent running. So eval, and then in backticks, SSH-agent, and then, still within backticks, -s. Okay, and you'll just see like this agent PID and some number. Then after that, you would add the key, so SSH dash add, and then locate the key, so home directory slash dot SSH slash, and then whatever you called it, so ID GitHub, GitHub 2, and you wouldn't put the .pub here, you're adding the private key, and it says identity added. So once you do that, then you can try that again, and hopefully that works. All right, so now you're ready to clone if you want to get this, like let's say we're on a different machine and we want this task tracker application, we want to clone that repository onto the machine. So what I'm going to do is open up, let's see, I'll just create a new folder, I guess. And I'll just call this, let's say task, I guess I'll say task tracker -2. And then I'm going to open that in my terminal. Okay, so now I want to clone the repository into this folder. So we'll say git clone, and then you're going to grab, let's see, we're going to go to repositories, go to the task tracker, and then I'm going to go to code and then get this right here, copy that, paste that. Now if I just run this as is, it's going to create a new folder called task tracker. If I want to take the files and put them into this folder of task tracker 2, then I'll just put a dot at the end. So now it says cloning into. Now if I do an ls, you can see I have those files. And then you could continue to work in that folder on a different machine. Now I'm going to go back to where I was here in the first task tracker, and I want to now talk about branching and merging. So branching is a key feature of Git. It allows you to work on new features or bug fixes without affecting the main code base. And you can create a new branch, you can make changes, and then you can merge those changes back into the main branch. And this is a common workflow in Git. You can also create branches for different environments like, say, production, staging, development. So let's go ahead and create a new branch. Let's pretend that we're creating a login for this project. So what I might do is create a new branch. So I'm going to say git checkout. So checkout -b. So I'm creating and checking out a branch, and I'm going to call it feature. We'll say feature, and let's say /login. That's a common naming convention, is feature / and whatever it is. You might also have like bug / whatever bug you're fixing. So let's do that. And not only did it create the branch, but it also switched us to the branch. And you can see which branch you're on with git branch. So you can see that there's two, there's main and there's feature login, and that's the one that I'm on. All right, so anything that I do from this point on while I'm in this branch is only going to be on that branch. So I'm going to create a new file here called login.html. And normally you'd create, the whole login functionality, not just the page, but again, we're not doing that. That's not the focus of the tutorial. But what I'm going to do here is just copy the index.html and paste that in here, and then we'll just change up some stuff, like we'll just add login to the title, and let's change the h1 here to login. And let's see, we're going to get rid of this UL, and we'll add a form. And in that form, let's do form-control. And I do have some classes in the CSS to make this look somewhat decent. We'll just have label, then an input, and then let's go under, well actually we'll just copy this down, and then let's change this, actually we'll change all these to password. Okay, change the type to password as well, and then we'll go under that div and we'll add a button, give it a class of btn, and we'll say login. All right, and then just to check out what this looks like, if we go to, I'll show you the index page. Doesn't really matter. Again, it's not about this project, but it just looks like this, right? And if I go to the login, so /login.html, then it looks like this. All right, so let's just say we just added the whole login functionality. So I want to obviously add that to my staging area first. So git add, I'll just do git add all. And then we want to git commit, and let's do -m and say added login page. So now that's committed to my local repository. Now I'm going to push it to GitHub, but it's still, I'm going to push it in the feature branch. So let's say git push, and then I'm going to do -u origin, and then the name of the branch, which is feature/login. Now when I go back to my code here, my repo, we're going to see this window that says compare and pull request, because we can make a pull request to merge this into the main branch. And you can do that as a separate developer. You know, if you're working on an open source project and you create a feature or you fix a bug or whatever, this is how you would create a pull request. All right. But if I don't want to merge that into the main, then you're going to still see right here feature login. So when I'm on the main branch, we don't see the login.html, right? But if I switch to the feature login, then we do see the login HTML. So you can switch between branches here. Now let's actually make this a pull request. So I'm going to click this button here, and you just add a title to the pull request, add a description, and then create. All right, and then the owner of the repository will then go into, they'll see that there's a pull request. You can see there's one here, and they can check it. They can click on this and check the code, and then they can choose if they want to merge that pull request. So I'm going to say that I want to merge that pull request, confirm merge, and now pull request successfully merged and closed. And then you can choose to delete the branch as well. So I'll say delete branch. Now, if I go back to my code, you can see that there's no more branch on the remote repository, and the login is now merged into the main branch. All right, now back on this machine, what I can do is switch back to the main branch. So we'll just get rid of that. Let's say git, and then we want to check out. That's how we can switch branches. We want to check out main. So now I'm on the main branch. And then you can see that the login isn't here because I'm not up to date with the latest changes on the remote repo. So what I'll do is I'll say git pull origin, and I want the main branch. So I'll do that, and now the login is now there. Okay, so I'm up to date with the latest changes. Now if I say git branch locally, I still have that feature branch, right? Because I didn't delete it here. And you can merge it into the main branch on your local machine as well before you actually push it to the repo. So I could say git merge and then feature/login. I'm not going to run it because I've already pulled down the latest changes, but that would merge it into the main, and then I could push to the remote repo. So there's a lot of different ways to do things. Now I want to delete the feature login branch locally, so it's already deleted on the remote. So let's say git branch, and then we would do -d, and then the name of the branch, which is feature/login, and now that branch should be deleted. If I say git branch, then we just have the main, and we're all up to date. So that's how you can not only create branches and merge, but also how you can create pull requests. Now the